Education, Environment, Sustainability Committee meeting Wednesday, April 30th at 3:04 p.m. Can I have a roll call, please?
And just as a reminder to all who are in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Ms. Simon.
Here.
Mr. Schlepper.
Here.
Mr. Hauser.
Here.
Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones is absent. Mr. Miller.
Here.
They were,
Thank you. Any public comment?
no, Madam Chair, no one is signed in.
We have minutes from April 16th, 2025. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, minutes adopted. So we have a couple matters referred to committee today. Can I have the first one read, 0149?
Resolution number 2025-0149, awarding a total sum not to exceed $32,500 to the Cleveland Foundry for the purpose of providing camp scholarships, to Cleveland students from the District 8 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
And who's here for that item?
Ian Marks, Cleveland Foundry. Xavier Anaton.
Okay, good afternoon.
All right. The Cleveland Foundry is a 501c3 founded right here in Cleveland Center in the Historic Flats District to be Cleveland's community rowing and sailing center. Our mission is to transform the lives of Cleveland youth through access to the sports of rowing and sailing. We have the only indoor rowing tanks in the state of Ohio. They're really amazing. I encourage you all to come down if you can. And we're also partnering with the Cleveland Metro Parks to be their provider for all sailing services at the new Patrick S. Parker Sailing Center, which will be at East 55th. Currently, we're also housing the Freshwater Institute and their group of interns as they come down one Saturday a month and use our campus for their classroom. Let's see here. Sorry. All right. Oops. Through our Row Sail Dream program, we're able to engage over 3,000 youth in Northeast Ohio every year. We do this by partnering with CMSD, local youth serving organizations, as well as other youth groups like Esperanza, GCNA. And we take those students through different tiers of programming to introduce them to the sports of rowing and sailing. It could be through a classroom takeover through their PE class. It could be through their science class with a STEM takeover with all the wonderful STEM components that exist in these sports, or through our camps, and also through our teams. We have a competitive rowing team as well as a competitive sailing team here. Rocky River actually just won the state championship in sailing, who sails through the Foundry just a couple years ago. Why rowing and sailing? Rowing and sailing helps promote health and fitness. Additionally, it helps develop non-cognitive skills such as teamwork, communication, and perseverance. Everyone in the boat has a role. Everyone in the boat has to do their role. Additionally, there's a lot of pathways with both rowing and sailing. Rowing in particular, 1 in 9 female high school athletes who row will row Division I. 1 in 17 male athletes will row Division I. So wonderful pathway to get into a number of different schools, and obviously all the Ivies have those programs. Additionally, we are connecting folks with 2 of our greatest natural resources, Lake Erie and obviously the Cuyahoga River. As I mentioned, there's all those STEM applications too, with wind and force and all of those things that can really bring those things to life as we're putting that in the classroom as well as into these sports. So this program, we're looking to provide 100 camp scholarships. Of the camps we are offering this summer, 50 of those scholarships are being targeted at District 8, and we are already working with a partner called Gideon's Army, who works with youth, mostly men, young males, but also with females and through their schools to bring those folks in. We do have some limited transportation available for them. The additional 50 scholarships would be to anyone else in Cuyahoga County. All of our camps are multi-leveled, so it starts with, I've never touched a boat before, what the heck is that, to I've been sailing for a few years and I want to hone my skills and get better. All of our counselors as well as coaches are certified and vetted. They go through background checks, they're Safe Sports certified, and have at least a level 1 in their respective discipline. So I'm going to introduce you, as I said before, to Xavier Anaton. Xavier rowed as a youth. He is our outreach director as well as one of our coaches, just to kind of talk about what it did for his life.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? So yeah, I'm one of 17 to get recruited in the sport of rowing. Was able to go to college for it, got some scholarships out of it. Was able to meet a lot of people from all across the world and got a lot of opportunities out of it as well. So back here in Cleveland, they give that resource out to all the athletes, all the students that we possibly can. So.
I have a question, Xavier. So Shaker Heights, let's see, men's row team. So you're from Shaker Heights
That's correct.
High.
Yep.
Are there other students from there as well, or are you?
So Shaker Heights is a separate crew team itself. It's one of 3 public school teams to have a rowing squad, but for the Foundry is the rowing team for any school that does not have their own scholastic team.
So there's 3 schools that have a rowing team.
3 public schools,
Which
yes.
ones?
Shaker Heights, Marietta, I forgot what yeah.
Here in Cleveland, we
Yeah.
have 5 schools total. Eds, Ignatius, St. Joe's, Magnificat, and Shaker.
Oh, good.
Of those,
Okay.
3 of those use the Foundry as their boathouse, and then we have our own interscholastic club team for all those other schools who don't have a team with their high school.
Right, okay, good. Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, good.
All right. Is that it?
That's it.
Questions from committee? Councilman?
Yeah, if I may, through the chair. Thank you so much for being here. I was a rower in college, so this is very near and dear to my heart. I can tell you, when you were talking about some of the why, there is nothing that has kicked my butt more than being on a road team. I sat second seat. You know what that means. I went to John Carroll and, being up at 5:30 in the morning, being on the water. So when it comes to team dynamics, discipline, I was in the best shape of my life. I'm not now. So there are so many pieces of this particular sport and so many tenets that it brings with it. I think it's incredible. I love the work that you're doing, and I think that I hope to see it grow. So thank you for being here today.
Appreciate that.
Thanks. Questions? Okay, Council President?
Do you have other scholarship programs besides this one?
Yes, we do. We have some federal dollars that we've been able to leverage, as well as through private funders, like through the Geist Foundation, for example, would be one of them. So we try to bring those dollars in and identify different groups of folks and who would be most appropriate to direct that funding to.
And for last year, for example, how many scholarships were provided?
Last year, we probably did in the 40 to 50 range. So this will take us up, obviously, by about 150%. But most of the folks, because we do have some TANF dollars, we are able to serve a number of TANF receiving families directly with no out-of-pocket cost for them.
And do you expect to get more applicants than you have available scholarships? And if so, how do you decide who gets the scholarships?
That would be a wonderful thing to happen. I don't anticipate that, just because really getting these sports out there and getting the families convinced to get on the water, because we're also overcoming the obstacle. There is a low level of swimming ability in some of the communities we're working with. So we anticipate to get very close to that 100, but I don't anticipate to go over.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. So these 50 scholarships that are targeted by this ARPA award are exclusive to District 8, correct?
50 of the total 100.
And so it's about $650 per scholarship, or how does that work? Like, what's the cost?
So our retail camps run about $375. We figure we can put in 100 individuals, so it's 100 total, 50 from anywhere in Cuyahoga County, 50 from District 8. So
Okay.
that comes up to, it's roughly 325 is kind
So
of how
the
we split it.
32.5 is only District 8, or it's for this other?
Both.
Both.
50 from District 8, 50/50. yep.
50/50.
But
So we
with the same 32.5.
about 100 potential.
Correct.
Awardees, I
Absolutely.
guess. And if you don't use the money for this year, 2025, what happens if you don't get enough applicants?
So we also were, so this is specifically for camps with our team. Our middle school team is the front door to this sport and has about 90% of the people who are on scholarship, either through, excuse me, our federal funding or through some of our private funding. So we would use that to make sure that there is no financial barrier for a young boy or girl to be able to row at the middle school level.
So if there's not enough camp applicants, you would transfer this funding to other uses?
Absolutely.
Other students?
Yeah.
Participants?
Rowing and sailing, unfortunately, are quite pricey to run between boats, water access, and every little piece that goes on. Every bolt, every rigger on a boat starts to add up. So these dollars certainly help. And we never want to have an individual who's interested in being on the water and pursuing this have the financial barrier.
Great, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? So I'll just tell you how this works. If we'll pass this out of committee, I presume. There's no objection. It will be read a total of 3 times, and it will be on the docket at a full council meeting in two council meetings from now. And usually the president has the date. Maybe I caught him off guard.
So the next council meeting is on May 13th, so the following council meeting would be May 27th.
Oh, okay. So you got it. So it's going to be a little wait. Okay. All right. Thanks for your presentation. I'm going to make a motion to move Resolution 2025-0149 out of committee into the next full council meeting for second reading. Thank you. All in favor?
Hi.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, next item, 2025-0150.
Resolution number 2025-0150, awarding a total sum not to exceed $190,000 to the Western Reserve Land Conservancy for the French Creek Headwaters Preserve Project from the District 11 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman, honorable members of County Council. My name is Matt Zone. I'm with my colleague Alex Chayka from the Western Reserve Land Conservancy. And so thank you for considering this application. Just first, a point of personal privilege, if you would allow me. I just wanted to congratulate newly elected Councilmember Schlepper, as well as Councilman Hauser. Public service is an honorable profession, and we need good people in this. So thank you for stepping up. And Council President Miller, for your decades of service to our community. Thank you. And I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the chairwoman, who has been a champion in the world, in environmental movement for I won't say how long, Madam Chairwoman, but we just appreciate your contributions. Western Reserve Land Conservancy is the largest land conservation organization in Ohio, one of the largest in the country. We've conserved over 76,000 acres, and we've created over 200 parks and preserves, about close to 1,000. Well, I'll let our chief conservation specialist talk about that. But we're really excited about this opportunity because as Cuyahoga County has urbanized and sprawled out, there are not many large tracts of land where there's all woods and wetlands intact. And we have an amazing property here that we'd love to put conservation easements on. And so with that, I'd love to turn it over to Alex Chayka, who's the Chief Conservation Officer for our organization.
Thanks, Matt, and thank you, Council, for giving us the time to look at this project. We really appreciate it, and Councilwoman Simon for kind of shepherding us to this point. So Western Reserve Land Conservancy works to protect and conserve land in our region, which is about 29 counties in Northeast Ohio, through land conservation and restoration. So as Matt said, we do the kind of full gamut of conservation tools in our tool bag. We don't just take one tool to every community and say, this is what you should do. We have a diverse tool bag, and we go there and say, here's what we have to offer. Maybe something's of interest to you. In this particular scenario, the project that we're talking about today, as Matt alluded to, not only in Cuyahoga County, but in the state of Ohio, about more than 95% of wetlands have been lost and destroyed since colonization. And so any opportunity that we have to protect wetlands is very important, not only for wildlife habitat, for water quality, which is an ever important need as related to Lake Erie. So to jump into French Creek Headwaters Preserve, this is a project, it's in western Cuyahoga County, Olmsted Township. It's 11.5 acres. It's primarily forested wetlands, which forested wetlands are the kind of most unique wetland type because trees take a long time to grow. And these trees haven't been harvested in decades, so starting at that point I think is really good. You see in this picture kind of the moss-covered hummocks that also indicate the property hasn't been disturbed for a long time and maybe not ever significantly. So it has some really great natural qualities. In addition to the wetlands on site, French Creek, as you see in the next slide, sorry about that, runs directly through the property. This is a tributary to the Huron River, which again flows into Lake Erie. So protecting these headwaters is really important for water quality, not only in French Creek or the river, but also in Lake Erie. You see this property's location on Bagley Road. So this is kind of surrounded to the west by residential use, to the east by industrial and commercial use. The property is zoned light industrial. So it does have appeal from a development and buildability standpoint. Here's an aerial view of the property. It's 11.5 acres, as you see, completely forested. You see French Creek flowing through it, and the wetlands exist there throughout. So the project summary, so again, I've talked about most of this, 1,400 linear feet of French Creek, tributary to the Black River, not the Huron, I misspoke, which is a trib to Lake Erie, zone light industrial, forested wetlands. We intend to put a conservation easement on this property, which would protect these wetlands in perpetuity. We would take on the obligation of stewarding and maintaining those wetlands forever into the future. And we can get this done relatively quickly if council does decide that this is a good idea to pursue. And that's all I have for today. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councilman Hauser?
To the chair, to the speakers, are these matching dollars, or is the 190 the total project sum? And if these are matching dollars, what other partners do you guys have for this project?
These are not matching dollars. This would totally fund the entire project.
Okay. Okay. And I guess my my next question, I guess from a transparency kind of perspective, what mechanisms do you guys have in place to ensure that you guys don't, since these are your only funds, that you guys don't overspend, or if it's underspent, or what transparency mechanisms are in place?
We'd be happy to get an appraisal to justify the value of the conservation easement, which would be I think the key thing that would help you understand that this is the value of the property and the value of the conservation easement. Yep.
And maybe, Mr. Chayka, you could speak to this, but if you even go on the county's auditor's site now and look at the appraised value, it's way more than 190. And as Mr. Chayka said, it's in an area that's zoned light industrial. And, you know, somebody could do something adverse to that area. That's why we want to move quickly to preserve it and protect it.
Is it a plan in place for long-term maintenance, since this is a one-time funding source?
Yes, so we have a stewardship staff of about 7 full-time employees that their full-time job is to walk every property every year that has a conservation easement on it. So we take on that obligation. We're an accredited land trust, so we have a national umbrella agency that's looking out over us, making sure that we're upholding those accreditation requirements. So we definitely have the staff to make sure that this doesn't ever get impacted in the future.
That sounds good. I appreciate it.
Councilman Schlepper?
Hi there. Thank you for being here and through the chair. The work that you do is absolutely critical to our county, so I'm a very, very big believer in it. Also, your main offices happen to be a stone's throw from my house, which is nice over in Moreland Hills. I just wanted to share this statistic from your website real quick to those that might be watching today, because I think it underscores just how important the work is that you do. Your website states that the United States is losing a football field's worth of natural area every 30 seconds. This amounts to the loss each year of forests, wetlands, grasslands, and other natural places that combined are roughly the size of Everglades National Park. That's a staggering statistic to me when you really think about that and just how much land that is, in a year. What that adds up to. So again, it underscores the work that you do. So thank you for your efforts in our county, because that's why we have so many of the wonderful green spaces that we do.
Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, if I could just make a comment in response. First of all, thank you for that recognition. If you look at Cuyahoga County, at its peak population, we were, a little over 1.4 million. Today, we're right around 1.2 million. Where those people have left, they've left the county. They've gone 2 and 3 counties over. So we work every single day thinking about how can we preserve whatever land we have, allow development to occur where it needs to occur, and not allow development to indiscriminately happen at the various easy opportunity. And certainly, with this conservation opportunity, it will make sure that these wetlands and woods will stay like they are in perpetuity forever. So thank you.
Thank you. So part of this award would go toward the easement, correct, in the purchase?
The majority.
The majority.
Yes.
Which is the mechanism to have this land protected in perpetuity.
Correct.
That is a mechanism.
Correct.
So in terms of opportunity for the Conservancy to buy adjacent land, is that still a viable possibility?
It is. There are some larger parcels to the north and to the west. We've actually had conversations with a pretty large landowner to the north and west, less than half a mile in the last year or so. So there is some opportunity to grow this as a conservation corridor. That is always our goal. But you have to start a conservation corridor with something. And in this situation, I think that's what we're trying to do.
Well, that would be awesome if this would launch a corridor.
Yes,
You've
ma'am.
got that would be amazing.
Absolutely.
Okay, so without any more questions, I'm going to make a motion to move this resolution out of committee for second reading at the next full council meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. So keep us informed. And you heard you've been through the drill before about the readings. Okay.
Appreciate the
Thank
support.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item, 2025-0164.
Resolution number 2025-0164, authorizing a revenue-generating agreement with the Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board of Cuyahoga County and the anticipated amount not to exceed $775,000 for the Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health Program.
Good afternoon.
Hello, everyone. Shauna Rorman with the Office of Early Childhood and Invest in Children. Mr. Zone's eloquent he's gone. His very nice remarks, kind of hard act to follow, but wanted to say welcome and congratulations to Councilman Schlepper and Councilman Hauser, and always good to see Madam Chair and Council President. So this contract is a revenue-generating agreement with the Cuyahoga County Adams Board for funding to support the infant and early childhood mental health, IECMH, you're going to hear me say that acronym, program that our two organizations have co-funded for a long time. The IECMH program has been in place for 20 years, and the funds support services that encompass a continuum of approaches to working with young children and their families, including the promotion of healthy social and emotional development, the prevention and early intervention of mental health difficulties, and treatment of mental health conditions among very young children in the context of their families, which often focuses on strengthening the relationship between the parent or the caregiver and the child. So this agreement today represents this shift that we've been working on with the Adams Board to swap roles in overseeing this program, with Invest in Children taking over the administrative role starting in January of this year. And that includes contracting with the behavioral health agencies that deliver IECMH services and overseeing functions like convening the provider partners, billing, reporting, et cetera. So the contract is for $775,000 total. $700,000 of that is a match for county investment through my office toward provider services. So the total provider package will be $1.4 million if this is approved. We were here a few months ago to present those provider contracts. So just for folks who are new to the committee, we started with the county's half of the funding, waiting for this agreement to come through, and then our plan is to bring an amendment for those provider contracts back to this committee and back to council to add the Adams Board dollars to bring the total value of the provider contract for this year to $1.4 million. In addition to the provider funding, this agreement also includes $60,000 towards staff costs for program administration, as well as $15,000 toward a data system if those dollars are needed to do that. Looking ahead beyond the end of this year, in the middle of this year, we will be conducting an RFP for a new round of IECMH providers. That will be a 2-year contract, 26-27, and pending a new agreement with the Adams Board for 26-27 as well. So I will stop there and take your questions.
Okay, any questions from the committee? Okay, so this is kind of a big deal, I think, to move it in-house out of the Adams Board and to have oversight and more control over the process. Are you satisfied with the matching funds and what we're going to be receiving from Adams?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, we had productive conversations last year to get to this point, so we're in a good place.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for all this work. Are you going to have to hire somebody separately, or somebody on staff who's already?
We have a wonderful program manager, Jacoya Gordon, here, who has been running the show since January and doing a really great job to make sure that the transition is as seamless on the provider side as possible. And so always behind the scenes, things are what they are, but hopefully from the provider end, they're experiencing a really seamless transition from Adams to Invest in Children.
Okay. Council President?
So, how many children do you expect to serve per year?
This contract, at this dollar amount, the target is 730 children total.
And do you have capability to serve everybody who needs service, or is there a waiting list?
We do have a waiting list, and I think, so there is a waiting list. It's not super long, and we work really hard to, we have a early childhood mental health referral coordinator who works in our office, who has established relationships with agencies outside of the ones that we contract with as well, so that when we hit a waiting list and nobody in our contract is able to take that kiddo right away, we have connections and relationships with other providers that may be able to offer services. So we do our best to really pull that number down. Your question is a really good one, though, because the estimate is that like 10% of children, 0 to 5, needs a type of service like this. In Cuyahoga County, there are 80,000 children under the age of 6. So we're certainly not reaching 8,000 children, but we're also not receiving referrals for this program, home-based program, for 8,000 children. We offer through our funding, and the state also funds classroom-based services for behavioral health. And that number is usually in the sort of 12 to 1,500 range per year, just from county funding. So that's a lot more information than you asked for, Councilman Miller, but.
That's good information, and I would say that the 730 is a large number.
Yeah.
And that I would not be surprised if you're able to serve a large percentage of the children who have the greatest need for the services.
Yes, this is an area, I think, in the total early childhood system, behavioral, mental health support for children and young families is at the top of the list of concerns for early childhood professionals.
I'm sure it prevents a lot of bigger problems later.
Yes.
I actually just had a question that I kind of think about it. Thank you for being here. I've mentioned this a couple times. I've been relatively open about it, but as somebody that's adopted a child through the foster care system as an infant, I understand the necessity of this work. A lot of folks, when they think about mental health services, they don't think about young children or infants. That's not where folks' minds go. You think about going to therapy or counseling, or if you need an intervention as a young adult or an adolescent. But young children also have a very, very critical need for these services. Certainly environmental pieces play a role. Do you mind just sharing a couple things about the services that you provide and kind of what populations they serve specifically, if you don't mind?
I may have to tap a team member to come help me with that.
Okay.
Alyssa Swiatek, would you mind coming up here? Alyssa has been in this field, early childhood mental health field, for a very long time. What I will start with is to say that this work is really relational. It's about the relationship between the child and their adult caregiver, and that looks very different from cognitive behavioral therapy, sort of talk therapy. So you're spot on that this isn't something that tends to resonate with folks because they don't think of babies as having mental health challenges. Alyssa Swiatek.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Swiatek. I'm the Associate Director for Invest in Children, but as Shauna mentioned, I've been in the early childhood mental health field for about going on 20 years now. The type of services that this funding funds, it can look quite different It is responsive to the needs of the child and the caregiver, whether that be a biological family member or foster caregivers. We have professionals who are specially trained to provide intervention and prevention services specifically to support all types of families. So an example of a service that you might see in IECMH would be CPP, which is Child Parent Psychotherapy. This is specifically a intervention for children who have experienced trauma, including separation from caregivers or multiple placements, or even environmental neighborhood or domestic violence. So this is an intervention that the therapist will support the child, but also the caregiver in responding to the specific needs of the child. So again, to the point of like, this is an attachment relationship-based intervention or support. You may also see within the context of IECMH services, some parent coaching or intensive parent support. Just based on the needs of the caregiver to best meet the needs of that child. So some direct coaching to the caregivers to be the best support, to lay those important foundational relationships for that child so that they continue to grow and that we're not continuing to see issues as they go beyond early childhood mental health into adolescence and adulthood. And also you will see a lot of times that this service looks like play. And that is the vocabulary of children, right? So a lot of play interventions, especially when children are not verbal. So you'll see a therapist on the floor with the child and the caregiver really, again, working on the skills of that child, but also the skills of that caregiver.
Thank you
Just
so
a few
much.
examples, yeah.
No, I mean, and those are incredible examples. And I think that part of our role as council is to ask the questions that can educate the broader population. And sometimes folks don't really understand not just the services that are provided, but just how critical those services are. And you're one such organization. So thank you so much. I appreciate the education too.
Yeah, of course.
Councilman Hauser.
To the chairs and speakers, yeah, I just want to agree with my colleague. I was actually going to ask you the exact same question from your targeted population to the specific services. Just from an equity perspective, how does that makeup look? And then I guess, how do you guys measure success in the work you do? And I also want to commend you for all the great work. We'll be interested to learn more about how we took over the Adam Board services, but we don't have to go into that today. But just from an equity standpoint, as well as how does success look to you guys?
So you're talking about in terms of the equity, in terms of the children served?
Yeah, like the makeup of the children as a whole.
Sure. Specific numbers, you're catching me off a little bit, but more than 50% of the children served are African American or Black. And the vast majority, I would say, of children are in the city of Cleveland or in the inner ring suburbs. Cleveland makes up the largest proportion of children in terms of cities in the county. The services are available countywide, so they are not targeted to any income, like there are no requirements. The only piece is around insurance. So this program was really designed to meet the needs that insurance was not covering. And so what you'll often find is that, especially among very young children, 0 to 3, the types of concerns that are raised and the types of interventions that the providers are delivering are not something that can be easily billed to Medicaid. If that family is covered by Medicaid, private insurance is an entirely different ballgame. I think they're even more behind the curve when it comes to covering these kind of services than Medicaid is. And so our funding is there to serve as a prevention to needing further treatment. Let's get in there now and provide services that are more consultative to hopefully offset the need for treatment, but also to be there to get those services started. And then when a diagnosis that can be billed to Medicaid, if that is something that happens, then that that's the only real requirement in terms of how the program works.
And then lastly, how does success, like what, you guys have any metrics or what does success look like to you?
We use an assessment called the Devereaux Early Childhood Assessment. There are a couple different versions of that. This is the clinical version. And actually, I think there's 2 versions that they use in this program, right? Infant, toddler, and clinical.
That's right.
And there are a number of different domains, but really that's looking at protective factors and behavioral challenges with a couple of subcategories underneath. And so we use that to show that when a child receives these services, on the whole, the program shows significant improvements across a number of those domains. So we use that, we share that back with the providers. They are using the assessment to sort of then inform their intervention strategies and identifying the areas of strengths and weaknesses or, needs for improvement to really support that child and the family.
I appreciate it, and thank you guys for all the great work you're doing.
Thank you.
Invest in Children is one of our most notable departments that has really obvious specific metrics that they use to actually measure what they're doing ahead of the curve, I believe.
Thank you.
That's why it's so important when we allocate money. I believe that, that we should look first to this department of the county before we start to, disperse resources outside of this department.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Anything, Council President? No? Okay. So this started in January, this contract period. Would you like us to suspend? I think
If that's
we
possible,
need to suspend this.
that would be wonderful.
So I'm going to make a motion to move this out of committee. Wait, one quick question. Where are you getting most of your referrals?
DCFS.
DCFS, yep. There
Which
are
is
kids.
that referral coordinator that sits in our office was for a time at DCFS. And so there is that relationship there. She works very closely with DCFS folks, and they have a small early childhood mental health team as
Okay.
well, so yeah.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so I'll make that motion to move this resolution out of committee to the next full council meeting with recommendation of suspension.
Second.
Okay, second by Councilman Schlepper. Council President barely, you didn't make it in time. So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you so much, and that was a good meeting. I appreciate you guys. No miscellaneous. I'm going to adjourn.